vane zvikaruka mberi uko musakanga mwapofu kumazero teerera soko gakamarata sangano wakazimba kumasero uko kumasero anamai
Thank you for coming in this winter cold to our conference, which means you really appreciate what goes on at the ZANU-PF headquarters, the House of the Zimbabwe Revolution. As you are aware, we had an important conference yesterday, which is a follow-up, a sequel to the voting, to the vetting of the war veterans supporters during the war, the Mujibas and the Chimbwidos, by the Minister of Defense, a job which was executed well, with the supervision of the fighters who actually fought with the Chimbwidos and the Mujibas during the war. The vetting was carried out in the actual fighting zones, and we had to deploy former field commanders from those fighting zones to make sure that there was authenticity to the vetting. So it was clearly a process which made people go down memory lane and re-find each other, which is something very, very emotional, very touching, coming 42 years into independence. But here we are now. We now have a proper register of the complete set of the constitutionally identified combatants, if I can put it, of the first Chimurenga War and the second Chimurenga War, which brought about our independence. These are actually the fighters from ZIPRA and ZANLA. Then they are those who went to war to join ZANLA and ZIPRA, but because we always had there was more enthusiasm to fight than we could get the weapons. You know, we were depending on charity from the Africa Union. We were depending on the largesse of the progressive countries, primarily China, the former Soviet Union, Cuba, Ethiopia, and other countries. These were the main supporters of our war. So the enthusiasm for the war by Zimbabweans was larger than the support which we could get, because we were depending on donations, on charity. So in the event, some people spent years waiting for the day they will be trained and redeployed home. But those who were quickly deployed, thanks to the fact that we had garnered enough experience as a guerrilla army from 1966 onwards, they quickly came back home. We had a bigger border with Mozambique. They were deployed, and we had our own corpus of trainers because of the war in the northeast and the war in the Zambezi Valley. We quickly had a turnover of people being deployed back home, courtesy of Zimbabwe having its own military trainings, as opposed to sending people to faraway countries. We had garnered enough experience in the instructors' corps amongst ourselves. So the war unfolded very rapidly, and we overwhelmed the Rhodesians in a very short period of time because of the big numbers. So some of them, those comrades, stayed in the camps without being trained. We are happy to say that they've now been included in those who are designated the combatants of the war. Because they had the intention, they had the will, but they didn't have the means to come back home in time. The party did not have. The parties did not have. So the job was done by the others, but they were still part of the comrades. Then finally, of course, we fought a people's war. It entailed offsetting the advantages of the Rhodesian military, which were many. They were supported by NATO, by the United States, which is the biggest power on earth, with the best military weapons. They were supported by Europe in general, which has got a history of war, experience of war, of modern warfare. You can see they never stop fighting. They are fighting again in Ukraine. So we had to offset the advantage of Europe by organizing our people, because they were the majority, our people. So it was a scientific people's war, which we fought, where we used our people's intelligence and our people's support to offset the advantages of the Rhodesians. To do that, we developed a core of supporters within the country. One of them is here. He has been proved to be, he was vetted by his comrades with whom he worked with during the war. And he is one who is now based, he carries his certificate of being, because he was supporting the war veterans. I mean, he was supporting the war when he was a medical officer in the zone where he was. So these are the people, the third category. This is the third category. And then, of course, the final category is the detainees. There are now less of them. You know, the parties started here, then the party had to develop to go outside of the country. But those who had formed the parties were detained by the Ian Smith regime. It's a dwindling number, but they are still part of the people who made sure that the war could be started and we could have an external wing which had constant recruits coming in from within Zimbabwe to go outside. So and there were many also during the war who got detained by the Rhodesians because they were fighting to support the war. So that is the fourth category. So the four components have been complete, and they've made the constitutional provisions to be designated as the core of the combatants. And it has taken us 42 years. It's unfortunate that these people who helped organize, first they unite amongst themselves. We had to unite amongst themselves. Remember, everybody's coming from his own house. And we had no manual of how to start. We had been defeated in 1896 and 1893. We had no way of forming we had no manual to form an army. So we formed an army like crossing a river. You feel the stones as you cross the river. So it took us time over the years. So in the end, of course, we united amongst ourselves. And by 1975, we were strong enough to say the decision about the future of Zimbabwe is decided at Mgagao, by the Mgagao Declaration, which said that the war now takes forefront and decisions about the future of Zimbabwe will be done by the military, the political military complex, which was the guerrilla army. And the results were soon there to see. Luckily, Mozambique had also become free, and it gave us a shot in the arm to say that we can defeat the Rhodesians. More young people left in thousands to go to war, then in tens of thousands to go to war. So that army, that shot in the arm made it possible for us to deliver the victory which we have today. So the People's War is very important as a weapon which we fought against. It was proper that at independence, this core of people who had offset the Rhodesian military organization, but there's only two categories of people who can organize in this country, historically. The best organized were the whites. That's why they took over and ran the country for 140 years. We had to build our own organization to offset the organization of the whites, the white colonial army, the racist army. So the only other people who know how to organize historically in this country are the war veterans. Organization haive kuchikoro, haive university. Organization comes, you are only given the theory to organize. Organization comes from doing. And if you consider that we lost 80,000 people in a people's war, that is the price we paid for organizing our people to be united. So we are now the most united country in Africa. Because people will ask you, it comes from the war. So it should have been from the onset, we should have been part of the party, ZANU-PF. Unfortunately, that was not the case. We had to struggle to get acceptance. The good thing is that we had a very strong contingent within the armed forces because we formed the army. So there was, in the reorganization, you remember Comrade Hunji reasserting the war veterans. And of course, we also remember the events of 2017 when the war veterans rescued the country from an imperialist, colonialist reversal of the Zimbabwe Revolution, Operation Restore Legacy. So, as a result of that, the new republic under President Comrade Mnangagwa saw it fit that we become a formal organ of the party, which we should have been from the beginning. Because without the organizational experience and the vision, remember, to go to war, you needed vision. That's the other thing which people miss. We had vision. To say, I can die, but my country will be free. That's why all the other parties fail, because I want a vision. Yes, our vision is proven by battlefield experience. That's why there have been so many of them parties formed Wachifela, Yedu in a collective vision of the people at war. So the Second Republic made sure that we form an organ of the party constituting those four elements of the war veterans. And with all the work having been done at constitutional level, at party level, at government vetting level, the job was then entrusted to the man on my right. He's the man who is in charge of putting structures of the party. He's the national political commissar of the party. He has done a fantastic job to date. He reconstituted the DCCs. Everybody thought there would be rancor and disagreement. He pulled it off. He went on to reconstitute the provincial leadership of the party. Again, everybody expected rancor and acrimony. He stayed hand, made sure things work well. He has proceeded to set up the Women's League, the Youth League, and in a similar manner, he has pulled it off. He never stops pulling feathers off his cap, this man, the National PC, Comrade Bima. Then recently, he was entrusted with setting up the Women's League as an organ of the party, as we lead to the Congress in October. Again, he pulled it off, and we now have the organ of the party, the last organ of the party before we get to the Central Committee, which is the main wing, is obviously the War Veterans League, which is a new one. And he has got good news today to address to the press that the War Veterans League process is in place. I don't want to take thunder out of a man who does his good job. His assignment is here. And on his left, he is flanked by the Secretary of the War Veterans Affairs in the party, Comrade Mahia. This one is an actual combatant. He's a war combatant, like myself, like also my vice chairman, who is on the right, and the other director. So Comrade Mahia was entrusted with helping in the gestation of the new Veterans League, because he had to go to the ground all over the country and try to build up the historical aspect. Because remember, it took us more than 10 years to build our army. It also involves two armies, which eventually became the Patriotic Front. So there's a diverse history over a period of time which had to be synthesized, to be molded, to give us what we are having as the final product today. That is the basis upon which Comrade Bima worked on from an organic point of view. Comrade Mahia did a fantastic job as the Secretary of War Veterans Affairs. We are very happy with what he has done, Sir Anonzi Anyamkuta. And now, of course, the process has reached the final stage where the president, the party, is engaged with the formation of the War Veterans League. We always give a shudder to the spines of the Western countries. It's surprising when they say white farmers must be compensated, the IMF is keen to assume the debt on behalf of Zimbabwe. But when we say war veterans must be compensated, it becomes everything. Why? Because we are their nemesis. We have the singular distinction in Africa of setting up an army which defeats the foremost imperial cat's paw of the colonial era, the Rhodesian army. Yeah, we gave them a bloody nose. No other African country has done that to an English imperial entity. We did it. That makes Zimbabwe very unique, and we are very proud of that achievement. But there it is, that's the background which I thought you would understand, you would have, so that when you need to put the story of the war veterans in context, and I'll make some additional comments maybe after the presentation, and I'll also be ready to field questions. We haven't met each other for some time now. There are a lot of things which have been passing around. There's a lot of turbulence. Everybody says crisis in ZANU-PF, crisis in Zimbabwe. Crisis is in England. That's where the Prime Minister is resigning. ZANU-PF is steadfast. Crisis is in the other parties, but not us. We are steady, we are organized, and the man who is the holding it all together is ready to speak. Comrade, there you are.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Comrade Mthuli, who is the chairman of the War Veterans Association, but who is also the Secretary for Information and Publicity of the Politburo of ZANU-PF. I also want to acknowledge Comrade Mahia, who is the Secretary for the Veterans Affairs here at head office, and also Comrade Moyo, his deputy. I also want to acknowledge other veterans around here, as well as the directors who are here, Comrade Mugwadi of Information and Publicity, Comrade Kuchekwa of Commissariat, and also Comrade Brown of the Commissariat. The Central Committee meeting of November 2017 resolved that the party should have a League of the Veterans of the Liberation Struggle. This is in recognition of the role played by the veterans ushering in independence in Zimbabwe and gallantly safeguarding it at all costs. To that end, the Central Committee once again in 2019 implemented the 2017 resolution by adopting the creation of the League of Veterans of the Liberation Struggle. Thus, the League is now an integral part of the party, ZANU-PF. To that end, we have guidelines that have been crafted to regulate the technical process of creating the structure of the League. And that's the guidelines I want to talk about. In terms of Article 19 of the Party Constitution and the Veterans of the Liberation Struggle Act, the League shall be constituted by 4 constituencies as follows. Those who joined the 2 Liberation War armies, that is ZANLA and ZIPRA, and these are the ones who participated in the War of Liberation, and I think later on I referred to them as the combatants. We have those who were imprisoned, detained, or restricted for political reasons during the War of Liberations. We also have the non-combatant cadres and those who assisted the fighters in the War of Liberation, known as war collaborators. The formation of the Veterans League does not affect the associations of the 4 categories as currently constituted. I'll now move to the elections and structure of the League. The elections of the structures of the Veterans League shall be organized and conducted by the Commissariat Department. The Electoral College will be constituted by registered veterans of ZANU-PF as appearing on party registers. The elections will follow the normal pattern where members of the districts elect provincial and the latter elect members of the National Executive Committee. Owing to the unique composition of the Veterans League, unlike in the other wings, which are uniform, elections at district, provincial, and national levels in the Veterans League will be slightly different in that, that the posts of chairpersons, secretary for commissariat, and secretary for security, those three shall be reserved for the actual war fighters or the combatants. And B, that the combatants will occupy 20 seats out of the available 40 seats. And that the remaining 20 seats will be shared among the ex-political detainees, the non-combatant cadres, and the war collaborators. And 4, where combatants do not make sufficient numbers to occupy all the 20 seats, the remaining positions will be filled by members of the other 3 categories. Only successfully vetted veterans shall participate during the elections of the League. Veterans who qualify for election into the League must be confirmed ZANU-PF members. Veterans in the main wing and the Women's League are free to compete for posts in the Veterans of the Liberation Struggle League on condition that they will relinquish their current posts in the event that they become successful in the Veterans of the League elections. War veterans will elect their 26 separately, while the other classes will also elect their 26 separately as well. Winning candidates from this process will then be seconded into a pool of nominees. Thereafter, having 40 nominees, the positions will be allocated through a zebra system, having taken care of the 3 positions reserved for the combatants as alluded to earlier. The conduct of elections should consider representation from both genders. District elections. When we say district elections, I'm referring to party district elections. The Veteran League wing comprises 40 positions at district level. The Electoral College comprises all registered veterans in the party district area. Candidature to contest for district positions will be by both self-nomination and nomination from the floor. The elections shall be by secret ballot. Provincial elections. The Provincial Veterans League at provincial level comprises 40 positions as well. The Electoral College comprises all registered veterans, league district chairpersons in each respective province. Candidature to contest for provincial positions will be by both self-nomination and nomination from the floor. The 40 positions will be shared equally amongst the number of admin districts in the province, with extra positions allocated to admin districts with the highest number of party districts. Candidates elected at the admin districts will meet at the provincial headquarters to elect each other into the Provincial Veterans League Executive Committee. We then come to the last stage, which is national elections. Elections for the National Veterans Executive Committee takes place at the National Veterans League Conference. The election of candidates to the National Committee takes place soon after the provincial elections. Each province will elect 4 candidates from those elected into the provincial executive. The 4 candidates will then contest for positions in the National Executive Committee. The election of the 4 candidates will take into account the 2 seats for the combatants and the other 2 seats for the other 3 categories. Election of the 4 candidates will also consider gender representation. The 40 candidates from the 10 provinces shall meet for election into the Veterans League National Executive Committee at the Veterans League National Conference. I now move to the roadmap towards the inaugural conference of the Veterans of the Liberation Struggle League. July 7, 2022, which is yesterday, we had a stakeholders meeting. This weekend, 9 to 10 July 2022, we will be holding provincial coordinating committee meetings throughout the 10 provinces. And at this meeting, the awareness campaign commences in terms of the establishment of the league. 11 to 15 July, the Ministry of Defense and War Veterans Affairs will provide register of vetted veterans by province and also by admin district. And then registers will be compiled at provincial level as well as at district level. 16 and 17 July, it will be the submission of registers to the ZANU-PF party headquarters. 18 to 21 July, the printing of ballot papers for district elections as well as other logistics. On the 22nd of July, there will be the deployment of district elections, where the commissariat will provide supervisory teams led by central committee members. The commissariat will also provide the voters' roll. It will also provide the ballot paper. And the commissariat will also provide the list of the polling centers. 23 to 24 July, we will have district elections. 25 to 29 July, the printing of ballot paper for provincial elections as well as preparations for other logistics. 30 to 31 July, we will have the provincial elections, as well as the nominations for national executive candidates. As of now, we intend to hold the Veterans Conference between the 4th and 6th of August. That ends my brief on the guidelines for the establishment of the Veterans of the Liberation Struggle League structures. I now would like Comrade Mahia to make some comments. I thank you.
I must sincerely thank my colleagues here, but I would rather call them my comrades here, Comrade Mthuli and Comrade Bima, our National Political Commissar, for everything they have done for quite a long time to ensure that recognition of the veterans of the liberation struggle becomes a reality. I want to specifically mention Comrade Mthuli. The introduction or arrival of the new dispensation was quite a task. It was him at the helm, and I was his mouthpiece during that difficult time. That ended me in jail because of a political space that had been created earlier on for the past 40 years. That is the absence of the force that this nation created for itself to liberate itself. So that platform for war veterans has been created now by the new dispensation. So this absence from this platform was taken advantage of by the usual people that we were fighting against, and notorious political opposition parties were created in this country. Because the revolution had taken care of politicizing the nation for self-political realization, a duty that we needed to proceed with from 1980, and it did not happen. So it gave space to the creation of opposition political parties under their handlers that we all know. I must thank my president, Comrade E.D. Mnangagwa, because he has made history again by filling up that gap with the right political apparatus that he is aware that the nation knows of their performance by their deliverance of independence at the doorstep of every Zimbabwean, and that, like he said, Zanla and Zipra. So really, the setting up of the League of the Veterans of the Liberation Struggle is out of that realization, and we are tasked by the party to ensure that we have continued this very important program of mobilizing our masses, politicizing our masses, and ensure the most important element of every society for socio-economic development, that is unity. it is the duty of the veterans of the liberation struggle as an organ that was created in the wisdom of our president to ensure that this has also become a reality. The League of the Veterans of the Liberation Struggle, I want to assure you, will do everything in their power using the same commitment that they had. Remember, veterans of the liberation struggle committed their lives to make sure that this country is independent. And there are no games that should be played to disadvantage or take that power from the people of Zimbabwe again. So it is our duty as veterans of the liberation struggle to defend the legacy, our legacy, the national legacy, and ensure the continuation of the revolution. Because it is from these veterans of the liberation struggle where you find where the revolutionary principles and revolutionary fundamentals are still alive. So we will need to ensure that we've handed these to our young people so that we ensure that ZANU-PF will rule forever. In actual fact, veterans of the liberation struggle do not compromise when it comes to power. So in 2023, it is 2023 with the Comrade President E.D. Mnangagwa as president of this country, our sole president, because the president of this country is a commander of the liberation struggle. The president of this country has served after independence. He is the commander-in-chief of the Zimbabwe Defense Forces. In other words, he commanded us during the liberation struggle, so he will continue in 2023. So I would like to thank my colleagues here again for giving us this support. We will ensure that the president has 98% plus victory in 2023. I must thank you.
There you are. You made it. One from the National Political Officer, and now from the Secretary of War Veterans Affairs in the party. We are going to have our league as an organ of the party. We are formally bringing back what I told you earlier on, the organizational expertise of the war veterans right into the structures of the party. We have fought wars before, since independence, when we were on the margins of the party. We won. We did the land reform, we won. We did the universal education for Zimbabwe. People forget. The reason why you are all educated as Zimbabweans on top of Africa is because of the war veterans' experience. I repeat, in 1980, the IMF and the World Bank said there's no money, we are coming out of the war, you can't have universal education. We told the former government, the first government, that we ask you to devote your budget to paying teachers. We shall organize rural people the way they fought the war to build schools. And rural people build schools for free in competition with each other to get a reward from Harare, who was a teacher. So there was a big, massive schools construction in the country because each village wanted to make sure that they get a teacher, otherwise vana vedu vanosara vari mapofu epanext village vakangwara. There was a competition between the government building, supplying teachers, and the rural people building schools. The government lost the competition. We had to remedy the situation by going back to Cuba to convert our former military camps into teacher training camps. We trained over 6,000 to 7,000 teachers in Cuba. So when Zimbabwe says we're educated, it is a product of the organization from the war. It was also the same organization which gave us back our land. It is the same organization which rescued, which has fought, which have used the people of Zimbabwe to fight sanctions. Any other African country would have collapsed. It is the same organization from the war which have made us defend the revolution between 2013 and 2017. It is the same organization that is the birth of the Second Republic. Now we are formally introducing it back to the party. This is organization tight, tested, and tempered. That's what we're bringing back to the party. Now there is some little party there called CCC. It has only the leader and his friends. No structure, no nothing, no constitution, no this, no that. It has changed the name to run away from the inefficiencies of the MTC, which ruined our towns. There is a rejuvenation in rural areas by the ruling party. There is continued decay in urban areas by the CCC. And in the meantime, it has no structures. To the point now that they are at cross purposes with even Jonathan Moyo. There is confusion in the camp of those who are opposed to ZANU-PF. I almost now kind of feel that Jonathan Moyo is speaking on my behalf. The political officer is hearing some music as he attacks the MTC. So what we are telling you is that the nemesis of imperialism, the nemesis of colonialism, the nemesis of neocolonialism, those who established an army for the Zimbabwe people, which is their own army. Our army does not take orders from Europe. It came from the people. That army, the organizational experience has now been grafted into the workings of the party. It will be part of the lifeblood of the party. We will not be knocking from outside. We will be right inside the decision-making centers of the party. Come 2023, we shall master that organization to make sure that the resounding victory belongs to President A.D. Mnangagwa. And more than that, we are going to ride on the fundamental changes which are going on in our economy. He is making transformations of this economy on a scale which Africa has never noticed. That's what our president is doing. The infrastructure rollout which is going on. The investment in the mining sector. Never in the history of this country have we had a major acquisition of more than $100 million. But in the last 6 months, we've had mergers and acquisitions in the lithium sector, which are topping $500 to $600 million. And the people who are coming into the lithium sector, they are the top companies in the world today manufacturing batteries for Tesla, for Toyota, for Mazda, for Mercedes-Benz, for General Motors. These are the guys who are coming into the lithium sector, the major battery manufacturers in the world. They are here in Zimbabwe. So we are getting the best technology available on the market today because of the open for business policies and the non-indigenization policies of President Mnangagwa. This is just in the lithium sector. I haven't talked about what's happening in the steel sector, where we are going to become a global player in steel production. And we have the top company in the whole world manufacturing steel in Zimbabwe. Because the resource which this generation which we fought for is good quality. The Zimbabwean resource is world quality. It was important that it attracts world quality capital and expertise. The First Republic failed in realizing the importance of marrying our good resource base given by God, which is world class, to equally world class capital from the best of the breed in the international business. Now, Comrade Mnangagwa has addressed that the people who are investing in our steel sector, they are the best. The people who are investing in our lithium sector, they are the best in the whole world. Tiripo pamamonya papa pe ushasha. So the transformation which is going on to come into this economy is massive. Already it has implications. We are having Mozambique redoing the planning of the ports and the railways to Mozambique, so that our natural outlet to the sea, the shortest one, is Mozambique. You remember we fought 40 years to try to go to the sea through Mozambique, and the Western countries have been fighting against that. We go 2,000 kilometers to Durban instead of 600 kilometers to Beira. The infrastructure was destroyed or was not invested. But because of the change in geopolitics and the investment policy of the president, Mozambique and Zimbabwe are working close together so that we have the infrastructure which will take the resources, the products which shall be made in this region on the world market. This is where we are going, and that's the ticket of the campaign which the war veterans are going to inject into the party, because that's a ticket of vision. The other historical, the party had lost vision. Now with the Second Republic, President Mnangagwa, the party has vision. You got to remember, this is a young man who goes out to go and start becoming a guerrilla in 1964, 66, when there was no army before, and he goes into an Africa which still had the African Union, or EU, as a fledgling organization. So he goes to wander on the African continent looking for support to be made into an army. He's lucky to survive. Many of his generation didn't make it. He goes to jail, comes back and goes to war. And he again becomes our commander, like Commander Maya was saying. And he ends up now as our president. This reflects a man with a long-term view of the development of his country. This is what we are going to bring as the new organ of the party: vision and experience. I told you experience, I have a which core. And I challenge anybody else to say, Paninya you are moving. The people who have vision and organizational experience are back in the party in a formal way. And I want to thank you, Comrade PC, for a fantastic job. We are delighted as the war veterans. We are going to make sure that we support you. We are also very aware that we have a very proud umbilical connection to our friends in the armed forces. We've remained there to make sure that we have the best army in the world. We are always conscious of the role which they are playing in defending our nation and in making sure that we keep the enemies at bay. So we are aware of the heavy responsibility which you are entrusting upon us, and we will not disappoint you and the president. We will also bring in the organization and the discipline. The most important thing, we dedicate it, the discipline which is symptomatic of the people who fought and organized an army against the best imperial army and won. It will be yours in a formal way for you to harness, so that we deliver once and for all a final blow to those who have pretensions to think that they can be regime change in Zimbabwe. Muna azitwi. And we will not brook those who say security sector reform. Our army is the best. Muna azitwi. Yeah. So on that good note, I want to thank you, Comrade PC. We wish you the best to finalize your job. It's a wonderful program which you have, and I'm sure that what you have done with the other leagues, you will equally do the same and deliver. And send a very strong warning to the opposition that the boys are back in town. They may be old, but the boys are back in town. The boys and girls are back in town. Thank you. We are ready to field any other questions we haven't made for some time. Come and please see if you want, you can, because you need to follow the trends and hear what the press is doing. Sure. I'm not going to chase you away. No, I would actually be quite happy if you can remain and give me warmth. Okay. Equally, Comrade Mahia, we just want, you saw our president, and again under the guidance of the PC, we are looking at bring our party back to the cells, to start at the grassroots level, because it was at the grassroots level that we organized the victory against the British Catspaw of the Rhodesian Army. So back to the cell structure, Msangano Kuma cell. He's pushing it. Now it will be given an impetus by the people who have originally organized the back to the cell. The founders, the war veterans. Those are not organized also. So that project is going to be given a shot in the arm, back to the cell. Tichasangana pa ground ne triple C. In the urban areas, tichasangana futi pa ground, because as the president revives the economy, people will see the results of a visionary party under a far-sighted president. When we get world-class capital coming into the country, we will change this country. People will go back to jobs. To go organize civil servants for mischief. Before they used to organize ZCTU industrial towns, but they destroyed the industry, never sanctions. Saka akuchina chekuorganiza vakauraya vakasimudza dombo rakatswanya zvigunwe zvavo. It killed the labor organization, because with people no jobs, no people to organize. The only institution which is having a labor working people is the civil service, pay one a government. Now so we want to encourage our civil servants not to be misled by people who destroyed the working people of my industry. Could not destroy a food government. So we want the government is going to negotiate very, very responsibly and with our people. We understand the challenges which they are facing. They are only emanating from the last redoubt of the Western countries in trying to destabilize this country. Everything else the president has done. The currency. So there is a war which is being fought on the currency front, so that Zimbabweans cannot have their own currency. The only way we relate to each other nationally is through a currency. Do you know what it is? If the currency cannot work, then we can't relate. So the Americans and their Western friends are trying to make sure that Zimbabwe cannot have a currency. Why are we the only region in the country, in the region without a currency? Mozambique, it doesn't export as much, it has a currency. Kenya, with a bigger population, it exports less than Zimbabwe, it has a currency. We increase our exports, we make more gold. You have to talk about gold coins in Zimbabwe. That gold which used to be gold coins, which is now going to be gold coins, it used to be smuggled to Dubai. Now it's going to be domesticated. You see, other countries, they work hard to earn money. Zimbabwe is different. We dig money. You understand? We dig money because gold is money. How is it possible that we dig money and we don't have a currency when we are digging money? So there are games which are being played, and the president has pierced the veil of what's been going on. We are also happy that the corporate world, which wants to succeed because the president gives them a condition to succeed, is beginning to question some of the models of business transactions which have been going on for the benefit of outsiders and not Zimbabweans. I repeat, there are some Zimbabweans who run businesses here. They become billionaires in London. How do you become a billionaire in London when you don't even own a fish and chips shop in London? You own Zimbabwe. It means your money is coming from somewhere. The president has looked into all those things. He has come to the grasp of what's going on, and the regulatory systems are being put in place at the central bank. The regulatory systems are being built in the Ministry of Finance, and the regulatory systems are being built in the stock exchange markets, and the regulatory systems are being built in the gold industry. We are increasing the regulatory oversight and vigilance to make sure that we account for our money, our US dollars. They are there, but somebody has been filching them. And the person who has paid the cost for it is the ordinary person, so that his job becomes difficult to mobilize. President is going to win that war like we have many others. And with the support of the League now, the War Veterans League, we will inject an element of vigilance. Because to win a war, you need to be vigilant. I told you about experience, I told you about discipline, and now I'm telling you about something else which is called vigilance. If you are not vigilant in war, you die. So we are injecting a new vigilance into the way our economy is run. because we understand what is going on. So these are, we are very confident that the president will be on top of the situation with his dream team here, governor and Minister of Finance, the dream economic team. We are very confident that we will get over it. We are also very proud of the fact that the diaspora is beginning to identify with Zimbabwe more and more. They are very happy. I just come back from abroad. I was in Canada, and the diaspora there is bullish about what's going on at home. The same is happening. South Africa, we will be inviting them to come and build steel plants, blast furnaces. You know, the people who went and built my stadium in South Africa in 2010, they experienced welders and electricians. We are going to be having, you know, a huge 5,000 people employed as welders and electricians at Chief Humanities to put the most modern blast furnace on the African continent. It will require the skills of those Zimbabweans who are in the diaspora. So they are not brain drain. Vachiri kumashure. Kwatiri, it's brain gain. Because they went abroad when there was no opportunity at home. Now the home economy is doing very well. We can bring them back. They are at a higher level of expertise. So he's again engaged in that exercise where we shall be recruiting our diaspora to come and become part of the economic boom which is being unleashed by the president. And the biggest one will be at Manisa, where we'll be going to 20 million tons of steel production in the next 5 to 7 years, starting with 1.2 million next year. I had a lunch with I almost blurted out the name. I had a lunch with an ambassador from a certain country. He said, we're investing in a steel plant. You and your Chinese things, you take 10 years. I said, Mrs. Ambassador, it will take 10 months. And now the blast furnaces are arriving. In March next year, we will be, starting March or May or June, we'll be producing steel by the best company in the whole world. This is where our economy is going. So I want to assure you that there is a new can-do confidence which is coming within our diaspora, and they are identifying with home. And there are 3 diasporas we have. Do you remember? You must remember that. The first diaspora was our generation Andripa University, varungu vakaramba kuti kuenda kucall up vachitiza hondo yaSmith. The second diaspora ndiye varungu vakatiza after independence. They didn't want to be identified with the new dispensation. The third diaspora is professionals vatakaticha vana vatakati vematicha ekuCuba vakatiza because the economy has collapsed. All that diaspora now is experienced because they were running the best jobs in foreign countries. Now our economy is pumping, they want to be identified, they are coming back. So we are very happy that there will be a seamless movement between Zimbabweans in the diaspora and those at home. And when we come together, we will put 1 + 2 and the result will be 1. It will be 20. Because we are using quality people from abroad to marry ingenuity from at home. So this is the economic front. We are very confident. And you see the president every day is cutting ribbons. Everywhere. Ana Chamisa, Mataunda, Amuna kana chaitwa kana 1. Kana kumuona kana 1 day ari pa factory ravurwa. But remember, investment starts at local level. When a businessman comes into at the airport, he wants to go and see a local councillor or a local factory rangu papi. He doesn't go to State House. But ana Chamisa avapo completely. Matauna achiona. Vangadai variwo vanotanga kutambira mabusinessmen. Matauna ari kunyiminya nekuti MDC inogona, Triple C inogona. Haumuoni kana 1 day anogotenderera netusikana, anogotenderera nevatuvana atudiki. Chaitwa hapana. President vedu ari kukata. He's cutting ribbons for factories, for projects, for roads, for infrastructure, for dams, this is the new president of the republic. He is at work, and when you see him at work, it's through projects, not through him making guest appearances at functions. No, he's at work. That's the new message of Zimbabweans at work. Hapana anosara tirikuenda tese. So this is on the economic front. That is the platform which will be our main organizational foundation for the elections in 2020. We will be campaigning on the record of economic deliverables in 2023. I want to end on that note and entertain your questions. Thank you. Any questions to the three of us? On any matter? Newsday. Newsday, I'm going to They didn't come. They go on social media and look for stories which have nothing. It's not on social media. So, thank you so much for your time. And thank you, Comrade PC, Comrade Secretary of and my directors. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thanks for the goodwill which you are giving to our new Veterans League. For us with the memories of Gafa Muhondo, we feel so happy that thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.